Today we're driving one of my favourite cars of all time, a 1963 Ferrari 250 GTE, a rare right-hand drive example, one of the 4 cars delivered new to Australia. It was Ferrari's first production 4-seater. Ferrari, the man, was very famously reluctant about building road cars. So a 4-seat car was a necessity to bolster sales. And then over a 3-year period, the production numbers of the GTE effectively made up half of all of 250 series production. So that's a huge selling car for Ferrari at the time, gigantic.
They're not particularly stylish, but they are very elegant. It's not an ostentatious car. It reminds me of these sort of understated cars of that era, you know, a bit like the Aston DB4. They're a gentleman's car.
It's a 12-cylinder 3-litre engine with 3 carburetors and a single camshaft per bank. The year before that GTE was built, Ferrari won the World Championship in Formula 1. They were the doyen of engineering in that time. What the hell are you wearing, mate?
Oh, well, we're driving a 60s Ferrari. I thought I'd crack out my vintage houndstooth jacket.
Another one of your wonderful ideas. This is like the real quintessential early Ferrari V12. Outside plug, single overhead cab, tappets activated by those beautiful alloy rollers. It's a masterpiece of an engine. Enzo was always reluctant to build series production cars. So the suggestion that a 4-seat car would enter the range was kind of poo-pooed by him. He was reluctant like he was about everything. And yet, the irony is that the GTE became his favourite model.
Stop talking for a second. Let's just have a listen to this Colombo V12. Because surely that's its best asset.
It is one of the greatest soundtracks that you can possibly find in a car. It is an astonishing engine.
But does the rest of the car let it down?
I don't think so.
Typically there's always been the engine with Ferrari, and he said, I build a fantastic engine, the rest you can have for free.
One of the things that really you notice about this car is how well it rides. It's got a 2.4 metre wheelbase, which is the longer wheelbase of the 250. Yeah. It soaks everything up. It's really compliant. You just point it where you want and you get into a rhythm.
How's the brakes?
They're actually good.
Yeah.
It does pull up, you know, 4-wheel Dunlop discs. It's a very fluid car to drive. I'm incredibly comfortable with it.
It's feeling good from the passenger seat,
Yeah.
I've got to say. I was actually quite sceptical. It seems like a big sort of cumbersome car.
It does look that way, but it is incredibly easy to throw around. And you can press on, you know. Like every good GT car, you need to be able to drive it to work.
Yeah.
And you need to be able to have a press on in it. The metallurgy in this engine is actually really interesting. It's a 3-litre V12.
Yeah.
It weighs almost half as much
Yeah.
as an XK engine with 3 Webers on it, which is significant because the rest of the car, it's a separate chassis car. It hasn't got a very sophisticated chassis.
Yeah.
So it's not an inherently light car. So the fact that the engine is light is important.
Holy shit.
See, hangs on, goes where you point it.
Well, the engine is inspirational.
The engine is, I mean, you know, everything about it, from the aesthetic of the engine bay, the sound the thing makes, it's a super evocative engine. The rest of the world doesn't matter when you are driving a Ferrari GT car. We're in the Australian countryside, we're in the bush, but you could just as well be in the south of France.
You can certainly picture yourself there when you're sitting in this car.
Oh yeah. You get in the 250 GTE today, you don't feel like you're being whisked away in an amazing supercar. It's not that kind of feeling. You have to remind yourself that in the late 50s, it was an extraordinarily fast car. The guys I call my heroes, like Lucian Bianchi, Sterling Moss and those guys, they jumped in cars that were not that different to the road spec. They had a lot more horsepower and a little bit more brakes, but they weren't that different. They drifted these things around on cross-ply tyres before radials were the norm. They wore pudding bowl helmets, goggles. They finished up with a film of soot all over their faces with a silhouette of where the goggles went. And when you get in the GTE and you sit behind that wooden wheel with the metal studs through it and you twirl it and you let the feedback come, because it self-centers beautifully. Yeah. That was one of the best things about that car, the steering self-centering. And when you get into a rhythm, you are all of a sudden, you are one of your heroes.
I'm just trying to see if your romantic view of the car actually lives up to the real world.
Well, you can be the judge of that. You can listen to that all day long. All day long.
Look, Benny, it's putting a smile on my face.
Good, so it bloody should.
Yeah, the gearbox is just sensational.
The change is magic. I think the change is light years ahead of the stuff that was in English cars.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you went out and drove the car on a test drive, you know, it wouldn't be hard work.
Yeah.
Plenty of air in the cabin, easy steering, everything's fluid.
Well, once you get past the driving position, you'd feel quite comfortable with the car.
There's nothing wrong with the driving position. There is nothing wrong.
Oh, look, it's a little off. It's a little off.
How? I don't understand.
Well, because
the steering wheel's a bit low, maybe.
The steering wheel's low. My legs have to be spread.
Yeah.
If I put my legs together, I can't drive it because I can't move the steering wheel. So I just drive like this. I do like it. I like it. It's an incredible engine. It would make a fantastic GT car. It's exactly what it's designed for. Is it really exciting to drive? I don't know that it is, but it certainly is capable.
Yeah, it's capable. But is it a sports car or is it a Grand Tourer?
No, it's a GT.
It's a GT.
Yeah, there's no sportiness about it, really. It had a lightness about it, even though it's quite a big car. Going through the corners and things like that, it felt reasonably big, but it didn't feel as big as it looked. I mean, it did handle quite well. So I'm going to upset Benny again because I'm going to start talking about the ergonomics of the car. My legs are splayed out like this so I can fit the steering wheel in. When I put my foot up onto the footrest, my knee is into the gear shift. Those sort of things just bug me a little bit.
It's because you're not the right shape. You
have to be the right shape is that?
You have to be the right shape to enjoy an Italian car.
Are you the right shape?
Yeah, I'm the right shape. You adapt to these things, and that's what means at the other end of the drive when you step out and you might be a bit hotter than you'd like to be, and you might smell of fuel, or you know there's vapor in the cabin and you're uncomfortable and your back hurts. But hey, you just drove a 250 Ferrari over a fantastic piece of road, and you sort of thought for a moment that you were one of your heroes from the 50s. That is what makes these cars exciting.
I don't know what to say with that. I mean, I embraced all of the stuff that was going on.
This is the thing, right? If all of the car lay people in the world analysed things the way David does, no cars would be valuable because none of them would work. So the only cars that would work would be the ones that were valuable and vice versa, and then nobody would get misty-eyed about the olden days and chrome and fuel and, you know, Sterling Moss with powder over his face and a
I get misty-eyed.
Well, you know, maybe for some strange stuff, but yeah. You know.
The 250 GTO sold for $48 million.
$48 million.
Incredible sum of money.
And if you think about all the iconic cars, 2.7 Carrera, it's one of those, right? And there were very few of them.
So these cars currently are raced at places like Goodwood. They are raced so hard, they are sometimes crashed in the same, and you think, oh, how can someone drive and crash a $50 million car? Well, the fact is that it's been raced since it was brand new. It's been damaged probably more times than you care to mention. So anything you do to it now is just part of its racing history. And that's why those cars are worth so much money, because their history is so long, the provenance is there, everything that goes into those cars is a fabric of its history. It's the journey that you take in that car, which is a special experience.
It's true. It's the journey. It's definitely the journey.
Sounds really wanky.
We're wankers.
Well, yeah, I guess we are.